The advice and opinions expressed by Dr. Grant Pichet and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice.
Dr. Doreen Grant Pichet is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Grant Pichet.
Dr. Grant Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grant Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grant Pichet is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. Good morning and welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen. I'm Shannon Penrod, and look who's here with us. Other way, Carol Merrill.
Good morning. Good morning, Shannon, and good morning, everyone.
Yes, Dr. Doreen Grant Pichet is here with us live via satellite, I guess, in a way. She's in another part of the world because April is a very busy month. You've already done, two news interviews this morning?
Yeah.
So we're so grateful that we have a bit of your time here for this hour during Ask Dr. Doreen. For those of you who don't know her, Dr. Doreen Grant Pichet is a true expert in the field of autism. She's been working in this field for more than 45 years. And she does not look it, but she has a mammoth amount of experience in this field and has been helping all kinds of individuals on the spectrum. We're so grateful that she is the visionary that she is, not only seeing around corners for what we are all going to need later on, but I've never met anybody more empathetic to individuals on the spectrum and their needs as whole, entire individual people, and for the family that loves them and wants to support them. So thank goodness and all that is holy for you.
Thank you so much, Shannon. You were so kind to me.
Well, especially this week because little known fact that tomorrow is Dr. Grant Pichet's birthday. And she will be 27. No, but she looks like it. And we thought that we were going to be pre-taping this show. So I have to admit that I don't have any dancing bears or balloons. But
Good. No embarrassment for me this year.
Well, no, we have to do a little bit of that. I mean, we had a bunch of people write in messages for you for your Christmas present that you had this surprise box and it was all of these things.
It was such amazing.
And we're not going to, and I was supposed to read them on the air and I'm not able to read all of them today, but I have a couple of them. But we're also opening up our chat. If anybody wants to write any personal messages for me to read on the air to Dr. Grant Pichet for her birthday. We already have some pretty amazing, not birthday messages because they didn't know, but other things. I'm just going to, and today's topic, by the way, is bedtime struggles. So go ahead, start writing in, you guys. I'm just going to tell you we're live right now on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and we are live. It is, what is today? So tomorrow's your birthday, so it's the 9th.
April 9th.
It's April 9th, and it's 2024. That's very confusing to me. I also want to say that we were at the Autism and Entertainment Conference on Friday, which you were not able to be there. But your name was spoken in wonderful, beautiful ways because you made it possible through your work, through Autism Care Today. You greenlit funding the research that's going to be done around the event. I spoke to the lead investigator who wanted me to personally thank you, Dr. Grant Pichet. And she said, if she's interested when I have the data, I said, oh, she'll be interested.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Would love that.
I was like, she will geek out on your data. And she was like, oh, I'd love to talk with her about it. So we'll arrange that when it's time. People are already writing in and saying happy birthday. But I do want to read a couple of the messages that I should have read at right before the holiday break. One who says, Dear Dr. Doreen, I could not express the gratitude you have shown for what you have shown my family, and throughout the years we have been watching you on Autism Live with Shannon Penrod. I still remember the first episode we saw. It was the potty training. Although our son was out of diapers, he was still having accidents. We took your advice and it worked. Dealing with school issues has led us to your powerhouse team when we have indulged every week. From podcasts to being on our Facebook page as a guest, you have changed our thinking, what, where, and why, and how, and everything in between. We have cried, sad, happy, smiles. You are a household name and a confidant to our family we can rely on. The advice you give us is key, and with empathy, we can feel your admiration, compassion, and love for the autism community. In our home, you are a gem. We are so proud to have found you. You continue to change lives and the world, one child, one family at a time. They're grateful to know someone so kind and genuine, and thank you for everything you do and will continue to do. We're so proud of you. We are all so proud of you.
Thank you.
Susie has already written in and said happy birthday. Andrea has said happy birthday, but Andrea also started us off this morning by saying, good morning, ladies. Thank you for the advice a few weeks ago on watching the video about wiping the bottom that you had given. She said, my son is independently, as well as any 4-year-old, can be wiping his bottom now. Thank you. She said, I feel like my son is finally making the connection he's supposed to. For example, he is learning the interverbal. What does an elephant eat? Peanuts. He came up to me the other day and said, Mom, I need some peanuts. I asked him why, and he showed me his elephant. So here's my question now that he is making these connections. Will things start to speed up in his learning?
That's awesome. Sure. I'm happy. First of all, thank you so much for reading that, the first message. I appreciate that. That was so lovely. And I believe I know who that's from. So Thank you so much. I can jump into this and just say yes. I mean, it's wonderful that your child is picking up interverbals right now. And I think that it's just an indication that there's a lot more good stuff coming. Yeah, absolutely. Every time a child kind of masters a specific phase, we celebrate, because that means a whole bunch more is coming in that phase. So definitely don't back off. Be excited about it. We're excited for you, and keep going. It's going to be fun.
Yes. And she said, happy birthday. You have made such a difference in my family's life. Thank you so much for all you do, which
Thank
is
you so much.
amazing. I started to say before, though, we're live on all these different platforms right now. You can be writing in your question. You can be writing in your birthday message for Dr. Grant-Pichet. And it can be about any topic, but we're going to start to talk about bedtime challenges in particular, but you can write in on any topic. I want you guys to know that today's episode, like every other episode, will be available on our YouTube channel. There are 14 years of videos on Ask Dr. Doreen. So, take a look, because chances are there are some golden nuggets that you missed. So go back and look at them. But also the show will be available wherever you get your podcast. It's a free download. Keep in mind that when you get it on the free download, we're thrilled for you guys to consume the information that way, because we're all about information and inspiration. But you will get advertisements that will run on the podcast. And we hope that you'll embrace that, because that's what makes it possible for so many people around the world to download the podcast. If, however, you choose and would like to have an ad-free version, there is a very small monthly cost. It's $5. All you have to do is go to glow.fm/autismlive. And when you do that, you get not only Ask Dr. Doreen, you also get Autism Live and everything we do on the Autism Network. It's $5 a month. It's even cheaper if you do it across an entire year. We hope that you will like, share, ask questions, review. I'll tell you what would be a really lovely birthday gift for Dr. Grant-Pichet is if you would review Ask Dr. Doreen, the podcast, on whatever platform you download it on. That would be a lovely gift, wouldn't it, Dr. Grant-Pichet?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Or just Yeah, absolutely. The more followers we get, the better it is.
Yes. You could share too. They're all those different things. So, all right, let's wade into the bedtime challenges for just a minute. But please feel free to be writing in. And by the way, hello to Susie, hello to Andrea, and hello to Rodney. So thrilled to have you here this morning. So the first question about bedtime challenges is about a 3-year-old. The parent writes in and says, my 3-year-old sleeps in our bed. I am being told we should stop that, and I'm not sure why. What are the reasons to stop co-sleeping for a child with ASD? It's a great question.
It is a great question. I love it. And honestly, it's a personal decision, I think, for the family. 3 is pretty young. Some families actually prefer to co-sleep with their children past the age of 3. And that is absolutely a personal choice. I think the idea when it comes to someone, maybe a behaviorist or someone guiding you to stop it, is just because eventually you'll need to stop it, because you don't really want your child sleeping with you when they're 18. And at that point, with kids with autism, as you know, sometimes it just becomes harder because once these habits are formed, changing the habit becomes a little bit harder. So that's potentially why you're being advised to look at how to start fading that out. But I mean, obviously, you can choose to continue doing this for a while and then attack the whole situation a year from now or 2 years from now, whatever your family feels comfortable with.
I want to say that Briar Rose Yates has written in and said happy birthday to you.
Thanks,
and said,
Briar. That's so nice.
yes, and wonderful. And we did have a live question that came in on my Facebook. The question is, the child has been diagnosed with ODD, but now a new doctor is saying perhaps it's autism. What do you recommend? Should they go and try to get a diagnosis for autism?
Yeah. So, ODD is one of those diagnoses that I just don't like because ODD stands for oppositional defiant disorder. And so basically it describes a child who's being oppositional and defiant. And in my view, there's always a reason for a child to be oppositional or defiant. In other words, there's got to be something causing it. And it could be, we see a lot of challenging behaviors, oppositional behaviors, defiance, like non-compliance, that kind of stuff with children who have autism. And that is sometimes because they're frustrated. They can't communicate in any other way. We consider generally when we work with kids, we consider all these challenging behaviors to be ways of communicating. So, if a child can't express themselves, they're going to be frustrated. And when they tantrum, you might give them what they wanted to begin with. So they learn, oh, tantruming is actually pretty effective. When I tantrum, when I scream, when I cry, when I hit, people give me what I want. And so it becomes a form of communication. And so that's the reason I don't like the ODD diagnosis, because it just like describes a child who's potentially frustrated from a bunch of other stuff. Maybe the child has pain. Maybe the child just doesn't understand the rules. There's a lot of reasons. And I think it's really important to be able to identify what is causing the oppositional behavior. So if it's autism, it would be very important to know. So yes, I highly recommend that you go and see someone who's a seasoned clinician who can offer you the diagnosis and can spend a little bit of time with you to explain kind of what symptoms of autism they're seeing. And that will help you understand your child a little bit better. A lot of clinicians will also administer testing, which is useful to you. You don't need it. Some of your insurance companies sometimes require some tests. But in general, if you can get testing, it's helpful because it helps you learn more about your child.
We're hearing from a lot of people that the waiting list to get tested is, just overwhelming. Is it too early yet to talk about some of the other ways that testing can be done?
There are several companies, and actually, Shannon, we probably should start inviting some of them on our show.
Yes.
There are other companies who are trying to do things that would be very helpful in regards to diagnosis. So for instance, when I diagnose kids, I've been diagnosing kids for such a long time that I don't really require another assessment tool, right? I mean, if I spend an hour with a child and parents who can answer my questions, I can pretty clearly, accurately diagnose or remove a diagnosis. But there are pediatricians who are very busy and they only have about 15 minutes with your child. And they're not that experienced. They don't spend a lot of time with just children who have autism. So as a result, they're not as experienced, and they would either feel like, I'm not comfortable diagnosing your child without an additional source of validation, or they'll say, I'm just not comfortable, I'm going to refer your child to a specialist, right? So if it's a pediatrician who wants to diagnose but just wants some additional source of validation or assurance, then any of the following tools would help that pediatrician. So any kind of questionnaire that you might fill out, there's a lot of questionnaires. There's screening tools, like for instance, the MChat, which will help identify some red flags. There are the actual diagnostic tests that are easy to administer, and pediatricians can take 10 or 15 minutes, like the CARS, Childhood Autism Rating Schedule. That's easy to administer and will give them some level of assurance. And then these companies that Shannon, you mentioned, there is a company called Cognoa. We will invite their scientists at some point to join us. And I believe they are ready. They provide an app to the family, and then you in home will use your phone and take video of your child in different settings. And then you will also fill out a questionnaire that they provide. Then that information gets sent back to Cognoa, and the app is called Canvas. And what they do is they will then rate it, the videos, and they will look for very specific key symptoms of autism on the video, as well as your questionnaire. And then they will still send all of that to a pediatrician or psychologist, psychiatrist, the clinician who's diagnosing. And that individual then has also the opportunity to kind of get on Zoom with you or observe your child and verify that they've seen those things. So it's a kind of an additional source of validation. We're planning to work with this group, Cognoa, very soon, but we're working out the cost, because the cost of their product is about $2,500. And I know a lot of parents are unable to afford that. Their company is working on getting health insurance coverage for their product, and they do have it in some states, but not across the US. Okay. Another product is Linus Bio. I don't believe they're ready yet. With Linus Bio, they take a single strand of your child's hair, and they will give you not just features that lead to diagnosis, but also some other health important genetic information that would have to do with your child's health, such as the potential to develop diabetes or these other health things. But right now, I know there's a huge wait list in a lot of different states, and it's just unfortunate because a lot of people spend a lot of time doing testing as opposed to, for instance, I literally, if I was to do diagnosis, I could be doing at least 5 children a day. And it's important that psychologists and all clinicians who are experienced try to open their doors and help as many children as possible, because as we know, Shannon, without the diagnosis, you are not able to get help. So it's important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have somebody who is watching who wants to know, do you recommend any specific training program for people that are like mall security or school security, those kinds of individuals?
That's a great question. We actually years ago did some training programs on our Institute for Behavioral Training. I think we did it for school personnel as well as for first responders. And yes, I do recommend. I'm not sure if there's specialized training for like guards or mall personnel, but there should be. I feel like it's a very, very valid point they bring up, because a lot of times, as you know, unfortunately, Shannon, people who don't have experience with autism don't know certain things. Like yes. When we were doing the training for first responders, it was very important that for them to realize that, hey, if they were to call a person who has autism and call them by their name, they might not respond. And that's not because they're being defiant. It's just because they're not able to respond. Or for instance, if someone who's autistic has their hands in their pockets, that doesn't mean they're carrying a gun, So with mall security, school security, those types of people, I think it is important for them to know that there are certain characteristics that make the individual who has autism a little bit different.
Yeah.
And they need to be able to understand those and accept those and know how to handle those.
Yeah. But is there anybody particularly that we recommend for that?
Honestly, I don't know if anyone has done anything specialized for that population, but certainly any BCBA, any board certified behavior analyst should be able to sit with you, kind of talk about your child's specific characteristics. Like, for example, is it a child who doesn't like to be touched? That's a good example, right? And then go to the school. You would have to ask the school. I love the idea of having schools receive this kind of training.
Yeah.
So I'm sure your child is not the only child in this school. And it would be very useful for all of the children if the facilities management people at a school were trained.
Wonderful. Saying hello to Nicholas, Vimla, and Sarah Bradford is with us. That she was our guest yesterday on the show, and she says Harry James O'Kelly. Are you saying that Harry James O'Kelly trains people for this? I'd like to know. Let me know. Or were you just saying Harry James so that she would come and watch? I'm not sure. But we had Harry James O'Kelly on a couple of weeks ago. Amazing, 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 amazing. I have another question about bedtime struggles that I want to get back to.
Okay.
My child goes to sleep fine, but wakes up 10 minutes later and wants me to lay down with him. I genuinely think he doesn't sleep deeply if I'm not there, but I end up falling asleep and sleep horribly. I am exhausted. Help.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I think it would be important for all of our viewers, given our topic this week, for me to just kind of go through a little bit of the process for getting our children to sleep at nighttime. And I think it's a number of different steps, right? And I think it starts with not just, everybody talks about establish a routine, right? And I don't want to just establish a bedtime routine. I want to start with a daytime routine because that also influences the nighttime. And the first part of this is waking your child up at a certain time early enough every day. Based on your child's age, you can look it up, you can talk to your pediatrician and determine how many hours of sleep is adequate and make sure you're not going over that. Sometimes, and not to judge or blame anyone, but sometimes we're so exhausted. All parents do this when their kids are young, that we just let our kids sleep in if they're sleeping in, right? Because it's a moment of peace that we have in the morning. But it's important to establish a morning routine where you wake your child up at the same time, preferably early, like open the blinds, let the light in, make sure the child is actually waking up. And also depending on the family's choices again, figure out like what age you feel is appropriate to stop your child from napping. A lot of times I have parents who complain about the child not being able to sleep at night, but the child's napping twice during the day and they're past the age of 3. So you kind of need to stop that as well because, your child needs to be tired. Let's face it, your child's not going to sleep if they're not tired, if they're getting their rest elsewhere. So make sure that your daytime routine includes things like physical activity where your child is able to get some work out their energy, right? And then as the evening approaches, there are certain things that are important. For example, don't give liquids to your child past a certain hour. I often recommend 6 p.m., but it depends on every child, your age, the child's, metabolism, etc. Just that if they drink later at night, they're more prone to get up and go to the bathroom multiple times, or they'll be uncomfortable, which will wake them up, right? So this also helps with potty training, by the way. So, eliminate liquids after a certain time. I recommend 6 p.m. Then the other thing is, if your child is pretty energetic, make sure that for the last couple of hours, they're not doing something that's going to increase their activity level. They're doing something calming. They could be watching TV, they could be reading a book, they could be listening to music, they could be doing arts, whatever it is, but not something outside active, etc. Because you kind of want the child to start slowing down. And now it becomes time for the nighttime routine. And this really varies for every family. Some families obviously will start it by saying, hey, it's time to take a bath or a shower or whatever. That could be part of the routine. And it does definitely help when you immerse yourself in warm water. Definitely it's going to reduce your activity level a little bit. There's also some parents have told me that it helps a lot if they have their child drink a glass of warm something, like, at dinner time. That helps as well. So those types of things are important. No sugar, that's very important, because sugar is going to also make your child more hyper. So just make sure that you're taking care of all that, and stick with your routine, right? So we take a bath or a shower, whatever it is, and then you go to the child's room. Now, the child's room needs to be a fantastic environment that is calming, soothing, smells good, feels good, like has everything that the child finds relaxing and calming. Lots of different things out there. Shannon, you and I have talked a lot about that light that has the moon phases.
Yes.
A lot of kids love that. There are other things. For example, children will love those lights that go in a circle and put stars on the sky. Children love just making it dark and looking at their shiny, the stars that are glow in the dark. Smell is an important thing. So sometimes parents will put one of those aromatizer machines in their child's room that makes it just very pleasant and calming. Keep in mind, there are actually herbal oils that are calming and can make the child more relaxed. So all of that kind of stuff helps. And as we're talking, and make sure, please, this is very, very important, make sure there's no external noise, right? So sometimes we don't think of things because for us, we may not react to, let's say, the sprinklers going on at 1 a.m. But with our kids being so sensitive, you got to think about those things. And if you're in an environment, like let's say you're in an apartment and there's noise around that you can't control, get a white noise machine perhaps for your child, because those white noise machines are really good. They actually kind of block out sudden noises, sudden sounds. And so that takes us into the whole world of sensory input, right? So white noise, wonderful smells, dark lights, all things that are calming to the senses. But there are other things like weighted blankets that can also help significantly with a lot of our kids feeling like they can calm down better when they have a weighted blanket, or a favorite stuffed animal. All of those types of things need to be available to the child in their room, right? Now, instead of, in this particular case, so let's say you do all of this type of stuff. In this particular question, mom says child wakes up and comes over to our room. Don't allow that. Why don't you set up a cot for yourself in the child's room? And if the child wakes up, just have him sleep again. First of all, you'll sleep better because at least you're in your own bed next to the child, as opposed to being in the child's bed. And your goal is to gradually get yourself out. So you will gradually start moving your bed, and I mean gradually, closer and closer to the door as the child continues to do well. And then eventually you will leave the room, and I'm not saying in one night, I'm saying over the course of, let's say, a month, right? Eventually you'll be out of the door and you will not let your child come out. If they come out, you're still in your bed, air bed or whatever it is, by the door, and you guide them back in. It takes a little bit of time, but kids that way kind of feel safe. There are nowadays amazing two-way monitors as well for children who just have phobias about this. And so you do it gradually, you make it a very pleasant experience. And remember, if the child has success at any phase, like at the phase where you've moved, a foot away, and they sleep through the night, that's success. If you move outside of the door and they sleep, that is success. Every time they have success, you want to reward it, and you want to make sure your child understands that they did great. You're very proud of them. Give them special treats, like this is what you're going for. So I guess those are some of the steps. It's a lot, I know, but it is a process.
But it's so worth it. It's so life-changing. If you're just joining us, I want to welcome you. We're talking with Dr. Doreen Grant-Pichet. Our topic today is bedtime struggles, but we're taking questions on absolutely any subject. We're live today on April 9th, 2024. So feel free to write in on whatever platform you're writing in. We are also celebrating her birthday, which is tomorrow. So if you have birthday messages, feel free that you want to write in. I had said at the beginning that there were some messages that I was intended to read on our last show of last year, and I was ill suddenly overnight. We weren't able to do that show. We showed a video, but we didn't get to read. So we're going to read some of the messages. This next one is from Kobe Bird, who just adores you. The fabulous Kobe Bird, who was one of the actors in the wonderful Netflix hit Lock and Key. Kobe is actually doing a keynote speech at Pepperdine tonight. So that's a wonderful thing. But he says, Dr. Doreen, thank you so much for being a voice for some of us when we didn't or don't currently have our voices. Your patience and understanding goes beyond any words that I could say. I appreciate all of the work you do for the autism community, and I hope you know how special you are to me and my mom. Love, Kobe. That makes me a little moist.
Kobe, thank you so much for reading that. I love him and I love his mom, and they're just amazing people.
Well, and they love you back, as do I. Wonderful. And Sarah Bradford says, happy birthday, Dr. Doreen. Asked Dr. Doreen, so happy to have connected with you, celebrating you tomorrow. Yes, we are definitely, all this week we're celebrating you. Okay, this next it's a poop question. It's a bedtime question, but it's a poop question. And it's a toughie, right? Mom says, my child is smearing poop every night and it is so awful. I can't even put it in words. I'm depressed and demoralized. I guess what I want is some hope that this will not be the rest of our lives. And I'm sending this mom a hug.
It is very hard. That is hard. But I promise you, this will not be the rest of your lives. But also we need to identify why your child is doing this, because the only way we're going to stop this, first of all, you do need you need a behavior analyst to help you with this, right? You need someone who has experience, because this is not an easy thing. And it is very, very difficult to deal with as a parent. So from my experience, there has been okay, so let me back up and say, as behavior analysts, what we're always trying to do is figure out the function of behaviors. Like, why does a particular behavior happen? And it's important to identify the function, because without knowing the reason or the function, we don't really know how to do some sort of intervention that would be effective. So it is important to find out why your child is smearing feces. And it's possible that we won't be able to find out, but we have to make an attempt or guess. From my experience, there has been two specific functions that I've seen with children who do feces smearing. One is the smell. Believe it or not, sometimes the child is intrigued by the smell. And so that means that we need to replace that experience with some other type of smell, right? During the day, some other type of activity that gives them a different experience. The second one is the actual the act of smearing, like this child is looking for sensory input of that type. And a lot of times the exact replacement for it during the day is finger painting, believe it or not. And if you are able to block the feces smearing, but allow finger painting, over time, sometimes the child will learn that one is okay and the other one is not okay. Now, it's super, super hard, but another antecedent modification or thing that you could do, starting with before the night, is to change the child's diet a little bit and try to see if you can get the child to go have a bowel movement before they sleep. I've actually we've tried having, overnight staff who will actually observe to see over a period of a week approximately what time of the night does the child have a bowel movement, and then they start smearing, right? Because if we can capture that time frame, if we can identify this happens at 3 a.m., and as soon as the child begins to have a bowel movement, someone, the team or the parent, takes the child to the bathroom, has the child void in the toilet, and then heavily rewards the child for that, it is possible to control this by controlling it before it happens, right? So it's kind of a two-phase thing. And if we can capture the time or even move the time so that the child is having a bowel movement before they go to sleep, those are things that are very effective. But it's so hard. And I do recommend that you try to get an ABA team to help you with just this. It's important. And the help will be very needed, because I can imagine how exhausted this parent is, Shannon.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. But I'm so happy that you were able to share all that hope with them. Susie B has written in and said, my son is returning to CARD May 1st. We just want to say thank you for coming back to CARD. And they sent a heart and star eyes. And I do have their letter that they sent in December. They said, Dr. Doreen, you are an angel in disguise. I would like to thank you for all your advice, techniques, and patience for our kids. Autism Live and Ask Dr. Doreen gives us a map to this journey we are on. Without your show, I don't know where our family would be. We still have a long way to go, but it gives us comfort that you are approachable and accessible to any concerns, questions, or worries we might have. You bring me peace and hope. So
thank you. That is so wonderful to hear. And Shannon, you and I both need to find out which office and keep an eye on them.
I have a faint idea which office, but it's one of those two offices that I get confused on a regular basis. So, Susie, you should remind me which office you're coming to, maybe privately. You don't have to put it in the chat. Leanne has also written and said, happy birthday, Doreen. Wishing you a wonderful day filled with love. And thank you, Leanne.
Thank you so much.
We do have a question too about supplements, because we have the question about the child waking up 10 minutes after they go to sleep. People want to know if you recommend melatonin.
Yeah, so melatonin is kind of an interesting thing. It does have a cycle effect, and it will help the child fall asleep. And then typically with melatonin, the child wakes up about 4 hours, 3 to 5 hours after they've taken the melatonin. So it would potentially help with the 10-minute period, but it'll still potentially, we don't know. Sometimes kids don't have this reaction, but a lot of kids do, where they wake up about 4 hours after taking the melatonin. Talk to your, pediatrician about this. Sometimes pediatricians will recommend just taking something like Benadryl, because Benadryl will make the child just more drowsy. It does take about, 45 minutes to an hour to take effect, but once you're out, you're out. So this is something in terms of the supplements or medication. It's a good idea to talk with your physician about that.
Wonderful. We also have a question coming in about teens and sleep cycle. What do you recommend? Part of me says they're just a teen, but they want to stay up late and wake up late. What do you recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, this has to do with family choice, right? I mean, so I think no matter what the diagnosis is, you establish rules in your household that are appropriate to your household. So absolutely, there are some families that will say, oh, this is a teen, I want to let them be on social media until midnight. Other families will say, I don't really care that it's a teen. They need to be in bed by 10 and lights out by 10:30, whatever it is. So you need to establish those rules and not and ignore the fact that there's a diagnosis. I mean, I tell this to parents all the time. Sometimes what happens is when we get a diagnosis of autism, we back off all the rules of society, and you shouldn't do that. Like, to some extent, we want to accommodate and assist and support and accept what's going on with our children and understand their symptoms and help. Each child is different, help them. But at the same time, you want them to be successful in their environment. And if getting enough sleep is something that's going to lead to their success, let's say at school, then it's important that they get enough sleep. So always remember that, set the rules, and then we can make all kinds of accommodations to help the child meet those rules.
Can I be honest that I particularly am bad at this?
You are. No one's perfect at this, Shannon. No one's perfect.
I'm so bad. And I will say we had a guest on recently that, because I think part of the reason why I'm bad at it is because I struggle with insomnia too, and did as a teen. And so I don't, you know what they say about you can't give away what you don't have. And so I don't actually know how to teach my, now adult son to go to sleep earlier, because I'm still trying to learn it. But I do want to say a couple of things that, when I remember and will do it, the Calm app is really helpful to me. I don't know why I'm resistant. I talk about the Matthew McConaughey factor. When I do the Matthew McConaughey thing, I'm asleep in 14 seconds. But I don't always remember to do it, so I can't berate my son for that. But we had a guest recently that taught a technique that I had never heard of before about going to sleep. Instead of counting sheep, they said to pick a word, any word, and then think about how you spell the word. And you take the first letter and try to think of another item that starts with that letter. And you picture that, and you go through the word one by one. Puts me to sleep every time. It's so
That's
ridiculous.
Amazing. That's amazing. So I'm so glad you brought that up, the whole Calm thing. So I think people have different issues as to, first of all, there's multiple types of insomnia, right? So there's insomnia where you can't fall asleep. There's insomnia where you fall asleep and then you wake up and then you're awake for a while. And then there's insomnia where your entire night is very light sleep, right? You never hit REM. So all of that has to kind of be handled differently. And also there's different reasons that people have insomnia. So for example, what you just suggested, I also enjoy Calm. I'm, by the way, I'm one of those people that can't fall asleep.
Yeah.
And the reason I can't fall asleep is because my brain is extremely active and I don't have well enough control over it. So if I was to do that, word exercise, it would be 6 a.m. and I'm still finding words. Right? I mean, I need my brain to shut down, and it won't. Like, brain activity is bad for me. It's not good for me. Some people, definitely brain activity is good for them. Some people, listening to music or stories works. Others, reading a book works. Ooh. Like I've noticed with me, if I read a book, it actually has a higher impact in terms of making me sleepy than if I read something on my phone, which is sort of interesting as well. But so you have to experiment with different things. One thing that my husband got me, which actually does work, is it's like a little eye thing, that goes around your head. It's very soft and nice, and it has headphones in it. Mm. And you can actually heat it up too, which is super nice. And it has this filling thing, which smells good when you heat it up. But So you have, your eyes are covered. This is one of the things I wanted to also tell the parents. We don't produce melatonin if there's light. So it is very important to have darkness, because darkness is when you start to produce melatonin in your body. And so that leads to, that's why they say, open the doors, open the light when you want to wake up, because it reverses that process. And so you want to make sure it's dark. This thing makes it dark. And because it has these Bluetooth headphones built into it, I can listen to calm or anything else. The one important thing I love about these ear things, these eye things that he got me, is that it has a timer. Because one of the things I found out was if I listen to calm, I will be listening to it the entire night and it'll wake me up later.
Yeah.
So I need a timer. I need to put it on like 30 minutes or whatever it is I'm listening to, so it completely shuts off after 30 minutes. So yeah, all of these are great tools. There's so many good tools out there now.
Well, I need to know where Greg got this thing. Is that an Amazon thing or?
I will secretly tell you that I have an extra one. I will bring it for you.
Oh my God.
He got me one. I lost it. He got me another one. And then I found the original one. So I'll bring it for you.
But you have multiple houses. You should have them in your multiple houses.
I do. Believe me, I have an extra one. I will bring it for you when I'm back.
Well, it's not my really birthday, but happy birthday to me. But I think our viewers might want to know too. I'll put in a request to Greg that we find out.
His eye mask with ear pods in them or earbuds in them is really good. They're very, very good. There's lots of different brands. They're very inexpensive on Amazon. Okay. And yeah, they actually do make a big difference.
Sarah has said, we use sleep frequency music every night for several years now. It has helped successfully those nights that her son is up and needs help, and I can quickly fall back asleep. Because that's the other thing. You mentioned that I never used to have a problem. I used to go to sleep and sleep the whole night, but now forget it. It's like there's a 3:30 alarm that goes off in my head and I'm up, and it's a a crapshoot whether or not I'm going to get back to sleep or not. I don't know whether that's an age thing, a menopause thing, or I know TMI. But that's its own miserable thing. But thank goodness that my son doesn't have that problem, but it does run in my family that I think just like you, the brain is too active.
Yes. That's why I love that they mentioned this, because I just recently found on Spotify sleep waves. And sleep waves is super interesting because it's this just weird sounds. And you think, how is this going to put me to sleep? It is so effective. It's amazing. Okay. Like it really does calm you and put you to sleep most of the time. So that's another good thing. And also white noise machines just in your room do help. I mean, I do all of these. So yeah.
I actually have a white noise machine for you. It was not planned for your birthday. It was planned for Christmas and I didn't give it to you. So I got,
good.
But you probably
I don't have one in my Florida house, which I'd love to have. I mean, they're just great. I think they're great. White noise does absolutely help, especially for me and maybe for you, because I have dogs. I know you do too. I don't know if your dogs are in your room. Dogs make a lot of noise and the white noise covers that,
For the dogs don't make enough noise. I can sleep through anything. I can sleep through fireworks. If I've gone to sleep, it's if you wake me up and ask me a question, then it's all over. But that's me. Okay, so back to questions here. And so what do you recommend for a 4-year-old who stays up for days?
Stays up?
For days. Won't sleep for days. They've tried taking out the naps and still can stay awake for days on end, a 4-year-old.
No, you need to, I would immediately go and see your pediatrician and I would get a referral to a sleep clinic, which will be at universities. Many universities have sleep disorder clinics. This is very important now because not sleeping at all is going to be, and I think that's what this parent is saying, is dangerous for your health. So unless you're getting, even for a child, unless they're getting 5 or 6 hours of straight sleep, their neurotransmitter production becomes off. So you need to make sure that you go in and figure out what they'll do in a sleep clinic. Sometimes they can do this at your house too, but in a sleep clinics, they will actually put EEG, like now there's beautiful caps so kids don't get scared. But it is a measure of brain activity, electroencephalic measure of brain activity. And so they will actually observe your child overnight, track their brain activity. You need to figure out what's going on. There could be subclinical seizures, which are not being seen physically, but they're keeping the child awake. There could be other issues, but whatever it is, a physician will need to help the child actually get rest, because not having rest like that is like very detrimental to the child's health.
Yeah. For kids that is not the issue. We used to always talk about the bedtime pass, and we don't talk about it as much. Are you a fan of the bedtime pass?
It really depends. It does work if, the reason I love the bedtime pass is because in some cases it makes it fair for the child, right? So basically the concept of the bedtime pass is, I'm going to give you 3 passes tonight, and you can use these passes. Each time you come out, you have to give me a pass, and then you have to go back, and then eventually you run out of passes. And honestly, if the functioning level of the child is at a point where they can understand a token economy, that's what this is. And so it is important that the child be able to understand the purpose. It is important that the child doesn't learn to manipulate the system. And sometimes I've seen that the child will use up all their passes and then still come out and tantrum, and parent gives in and all that. So to me, it's like the parent has to sort of adhere, really understand the process, the routine, and really adhere to it despite the child crying or objecting. And then, sure, the bedtime pass can be introduced as a way to give the child more reinforcer and more ability. It just makes the whole thing a little bit more gentle.
There we go. And we can give more information about that. We used to have a bedtime. I think it was because we were doing a bit of research on it, and Angela Persicki was doing research on it. So we were talking about it on a regular basis, but we actually made a template for a bedtime pass. If you decide you want to go that route, write to us, because I have that somewhere. I want to pause for just a second. We probably have time for one more question if somebody wants to write in one more question. But I want to remind people that we are here in April and that we have amazing shows going on the Autism Network, and give you an idea of what the next week holds. Tomorrow, Amanda Ralston is going to be on the show. She is the founder of an organization called Non-Binary Solutions. They have new software that wants to revolutionize things. We're going to hear from. She's hilarious. If you're not following her on Facebook and watching her memes, you're missing out. She's absolutely hilarious. Then on Thursday, Hurdle. These are 2 gentlemen on the spectrum themselves, way different age and circumstances in Florida, that have created this nonprofit, Hurdle, to support teens and adults on the spectrum. They'll be joining us. Then on Friday, you'll love this, Dr. Grant-Pichet, we have autism expert Katie Gibney is going to be with us. She is particularly, her area of interest and expertise is in teens and adults. She's going to talk with us about things going on with teens and adults and suggestions. Then on Monday next week, we have Lillian Carrier, amazing young actress, self-advocate. She and her twin sister Chloe created a nonprofit called Ourtism. You know Lillian from, and her support dog from the show Everything's Gonna Be Okay on Freeform. And Lillian and her sister are regular attendees at, and they bring their dogs to All Ghouls Gala.
Yes, I love that. And are you having the other clinical directors at CARD also?
Well, we have some of them. We couldn't schedule all of them. Our time's filled up. But I want to say that next week, and this will tell you that some of them, because the week from Friday, Jennifer Barreto will be on. I know we're also having Marcy Fibro in the 4th week, and we have Jennifer Yakos, who is going to be on. Wow. And I feel like there was somebody that we already had so far. Amazing clinical directors at CARD who have particular expertise.
And over 20 years of experience, which is incredible, right?
Yes.
And I love that you have these amazing individuals. I think Katie will give a lot of really amazing guidance for adolescents and adults. And also, I think Jen, when she comes on, her area of expertise is severe challenging behavior. So kudos to Jen for taking on that area. She specifically oversees all of our kids who have very severe challenging behavior, because it's sometimes and adolescents and adults too. She's really amazing.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. And yeah, I'm so glad you're getting Marcy and Jen, all of these incredible experts. I mean, I think Jen Yakos has worked in this field now for, gosh, I don't even know, like maybe 30 years or close to 30 years.
Yeah.
So that's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. So we've got some amazing people. I also want to say that Dr. Temple Grandin is a week from Thursday, that
Wow.
she will be with us. And we all, I know that Vince Redmond is on the list for the final week. We've got some amazing, amazing guests, you guys. You can look on our Facebook to see the whole calendar. I know we were giving away full calendars at the Autism and Entertainment conference, and it was a long piece of paper, and people were like, wow. And we were like, that's just the first half of the month. And we turned the page over, and they were like, okay, you got some stuff going on in the month of April. I will say that
sorry, go ahead.
Chris Desmond, I don't know how he's able to still be awake, because he has worked himself literally to the bone. So
on that, I want to also just thank you and Chris, of course. But I mean, I don't get the opportunity too often to thank you for everything you contribute to the world of autism. You are just incredible. And all of the shows and things you've written and people that you talk to on the phone, and like, you are honestly a powerhouse, Shannon, and you are 24/7 helping people. So thank you.
well,
And it is
thank
such
you.
an honor for me to be able to work with you for so many years, and hopefully forever.
Yeah, there we go. And I want to say Lori Bowersox just joined us. And Lori, we read your letter at the beginning of the hour. We're here at the end of this hour, and I have to let you go, Dr. Grant-Pichet. But like I said, we didn't know we were going to be here with you, and it's your birthday tomorrow. And I just want to say how grateful I am, because absolutely everything that I have been able to do in the autism community is because of you.
Oh,
Because-
thank you, Shannon.
No.
Not true. You do more.
No,
but
No,
appreciate all
because you helped me to help my child, and I would never have had the time. And then you gave me the space and the time, and you allow me to, build platforms and do things. And you regularly say to me, what do we need to be doing? And then you give me the latitude to go do it. None of it would happen without you. Absolutely none of it.
Thank you.
I would
Believe
be
me,
I would
it's
be
my
working
honor
at
and
Walmart. And there's
I love
nothing
it.
wrong with working at Walmart, but I would never have had this experience if not for you.
Thank you so much, Shannon.
No,
It's my
thank you.
pleasure and honor, and I hope we will be partners in this forever.
Forever and ever and
As
ever.
long as you let me shave your head once in a while.
I so needed you to do it a couple of weeks ago. I didn't want to bother you, but we should just have the razor around for when I get in the mood, because I
Will
can't
do.
deal with my hair at all anymore. I keep going. I know it's terrible, because I know people who deal with alopecia, but I'm like, come on, alopecia. I'll take it for you. If we could trade, I would take it for anyone. Anyway, there we are.
Thank
Happy
you.
birthday.
Thank you so much.
we
Thanks
love
to
you
everyone.
so much.
Thank you very much.
All right. We're going to let you go, but we'll see you next week. And I think our
Yes.
topic next week is food selectivity.
Great.
So there we go. But thank you for all you do from all of us. We love you so much.
Thank you very much. And
All right.
everybody have a great week. Thanks, Shannon.
We'll
Take
see you
care.
tomorrow. Everybody else, until tomorrow, give your kiddos a hug for me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
Don't forget, you can watch Ask Dr. Doreen live every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time. We hope to see you.